Hello everyone, I'm Paul McGuire Grimes. I decided to take a look back at this last decade at the movies and give you my top 10 movies, the movies that really resonated with me, the movies that I thought were daring, that did something different. So here are my top 10 movies of the last decade of the 2010s. This is Paul's trip to the movies. My number 10 movie is from 2017, and this is Call Me By Your Name. Director Luca Guadagnino brought Andre Assman's novel to life in a heartbreaking way as we witnessed Elio and Oliver's summer Italian romance. There's this back and forth tug of war for both of them as they explore their sexuality and what that means in a 1983 society. The film launched the career of Timothée Chalamet, and by the end, many of us gay men sat in silence, as if this film captured our stories of understanding and accepting our true selves, falling in love, and having that ripped away. My number 9 movie is Jordan Peele's horror masterpiece, Us, and it was my top movie of 2019. It was far more than just a scary movie full of jump scares, but a look at how we can become our own worst enemy and how that manifests in our everyday life. It's deeply layered, and that shocking imagery and the Easter eggs to other horror movies. And it really is kind of a look at the racial divide in our country. Peele doesn't make it easy, and it leaves it up to the audience to make of it what they will. And it's not all wrapped up in the end, or answered by the final frame. Us, from 2019. My number 8 movie of the last decade is from 2015. It's Inside Out. Inside Out takes us inside the mind of a young girl named Riley who moves from Minnesota to San Francisco and the emotions she faces in adjusting to her big move. Now, it's truly astonishing how writer-director Pete Docter and the brilliant team at Pixar visualized our inner thoughts and voices. Now, it's almost as if this idea would be too smart for kids, yet their creations and their innovative ideas were accessible for kids to really grasp onto. The animation is top-notch, of course, and the voiceover cast of Amy Poehler, Bill Hader, and Louis Black voicing some of our emotions was perfection. My number 7 movie of the last decade is BLACKKKLANSMAN from 2018. Spike Lee should have won Best Picture last year for BLACKKKLANSMAN. It's the true story of Ron Stallworth, a black cop from Colorado Springs who dared to infiltrate the local chapter of the KKK. Now, Spike Lee leaves you with this uneasy feeling throughout, as you remember that this is set in the 1970s, but it also reflects 2017, 2018. The script is so harsh to hear at times, and the same goes for the visuals. But that's his point, as racism, brutality, and white nationalism is on the rise again. Number 6 is Gravity from 2013. Alfonso Cuarón won 2 Oscars for directing and editing one of the best sci-fi movies since 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now, it may star Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, but it was Cuarón's visuals and the use of 3D filmmaking that made you feel like you were lost in space. It's the rare film where 3D wasn't a gimmick, but transported you outside your everyday life. It was a fully immersive movie-going experience that proved how magical and vital going to a movie theater really can be. Number 5 is Mad Max Fury Road from 2015. Now, George Miller returned to his Mad Max franchise with Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron for one of the greatest action movies of really the last 20 years. It's essentially one long chase sequence, but Miller chose to tell his story through visuals with minimal dialogue. And you can tell that each frame was storyboarded and each action sequence was meticulously choreographed. I applaud Miller for being so daring by using practical effects instead of CGI as much as possible. The color palette was breathtaking as the cinematography really brought you into the thick of that desert heat. Charlize Theron's Furiosa was a badass heroine who may one day get her own spin-off movie. Number 4 is Dunkirk from 2017. The Dark Knight may be Christopher Nolan's greatest film, but Dunkirk was a crowning achievement as he told this World War II rescue mission through 3 different perspectives, by air, by land, and by sea, each with their own time frames. He and cinematographer Hoyt van Hoytma shot this using 65mm and IMAX cameras. The wider and bigger picture then created the vast emptiness you feel out in the middle of the ocean, but also the claustrophobia inside a ship or the cockpit of a plane. Now, like any good war film, it's one hell of a gauntlet. Nolan cares deeply about the cinematic experience, and his passion is really found in his work like Dunkirk. Number 3 from 2014 is Boyhood. Director Richard Linklater wanted to tell the story of a child growing up and set out to do something different that we've never seen before. He, along with actors Patricia Arquette, Ethan Hawke, Eller Coltrane, and Lorelei Linklater, spent 12 years filming this movie, filming one scene per year. Now, there are plenty of movies where we have seen characters age, but with Linklater's approach, the audience watches these actors grow up before our very eyes. There's this seamless and graceful transition as we move from one year to the next as the timeline of the film progresses. Watching a young boy and his family grow up seems like a simple and basic premise, but it permeated inside of me for weeks, months after I saw it. It was unique, thought-provoking, and unlike any other movie I'd seen. Number 2 from 2017 is Moonlight. I can't quite describe the emotional gut punch that Moonlight had on me, but it's a movie that I championed and implored everyone to go see long before it was the surprise Best Picture winner. Barry Jenkins' film is told in 3 acts, as we see Chiron as a little kid, as a teenager, and then as an adult. It deals with the struggles he has with self-acceptance, masculinity, sexuality, societal pressures, and finding his place in this world. It shines a light on our youth and the impact that our environment has on our development, not just as kids, but how we continue to learn and grow as adults. It's a flawless movie, with an impeccable score by Nicholas Britell, stunning cinematography, and a really phenomenal ensemble with performances from Naomi Harris, Mahershala Ali, who won an Oscar, Trevante Rhodes, and Andre Holland. Now, my number 1 movie of this past decade is a movie that not only defined this past decade, but defined the decade that it takes place in. I will go to my grave declaring that The Social Network from 2010 was robbed of Best Picture when it lost to The King's Speech. David Fincher is one of our greatest directors of all time, and he turned a movie about a ruthless tech wizard into this thrilling, urgent story of how Mark Zuckerberg created Facebook, and then the lawsuits that he faced against the Winklevoss twins and his co-founder, Eduardo Saverin. Aaron Sorkin's rich, Oscar-winning text is brought to life with actors Jesse Eisenberg, Armie Hammer, Andrew Garfield, and Rooney Mara. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross also won an Oscar for their score. Every time I watch The Social Network, I'm reminded of the person that Mark Zuckerberg really is, the impact and power that Facebook has had on our society, and what a genius David Fincher is with every one of his movies. So there you go. Those are my top 10 movies of the last decade. Number 10, Call Me By Your Name. Number 9, Us. Number 8, Inside Out. Number 7, BLACKKKLANSMAN. Number 6, Gravity. Number 5, Mad Max Fury Road. Number 4, Dunkirk. Number 3, Boyhood. Number 2, Moonlight. And number 1, The Social Network. I want to give a couple, of course, honorable mentions to movies like The Irishman, Phantom Thread, Super 8, Ready Player One, and Moonrise Kingdom. It's a little weird not having Martin Scorsese, Steven Spielberg, or even Paul Thomas Anderson in the top 10, but I wanted to mention some of their movies. So thank you so much for watching my top 10 of the decade. I'd love to hear from you. What movies touched you? What were some of your favorites from this past decade? Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and let me know at Paul's Movie Trip. Don't forget to click subscribe on my YouTube channel. And thank you so much for watching. This was my top 10 movies of the last decade. This is Paul's Trip to the Movies.